Your entire health history from one tiny drop of blood that was the extreme promise sold to millions of hopeful people globally. Elizabeth Holmes and her company Theranos presented this incredible scientific vision to the entire world. She famously dropped out of Stanford University when she was just 19 years old. This pivotal decision happened in 2003. She had been studying chemical engineering courses for a few years. Her ambition was truly enormous. She deeply believed she could change the world with her ideas. She wanted to create a profound revolution in blood testing technology forever. The core idea was strikingly simple. A small proprietary device dubbed Edison would perform hundreds of complex diagnostic tests very quickly. This miracle machine would require only a few drops of blood. This precious sample would come from a tiny finger prick. This was meant to entirely replace traditional large vials of blood drawn from a vein. The claimed cost for these comprehensive tests would be dramatically lower. This sounded like pure science fiction to many, and the entire healthcare world seemed incredibly ready for such a disruptive and game-changing innovation. Theranos was officially founded in 2003. Its valuation quickly soared beyond all reasonable expectations. By 2014, it reached a staggering $9 billion. This meteoric rise made Elizabeth Holmes a self-made billionaire. She was frequently featured on the covers of prominent business magazines and media outlets. Her personal net worth was estimated at an incredible $4.5 billion at its absolute peak. This placed her among the wealthiest women in America. Wealthy investors were absolutely eager to participate in this apparent medical revolution. The company raised more than $900 million in capital. These substantial funds came from incredibly powerful and influential individuals. Donald Lucas, a shrewd early investor, provided millions of dollars in seed money. Larry Ellison, the founder of Oracle, also committed significant capital. Tim Draper, a well-known venture capitalist, was another major backer. Many saw her as an undeniable genius. People across Silicon Valley began calling her the next Steve Jobs. She even famously adopted his signature black turtleneck style in public. Her board of directors was absolutely stacked with some of the most prominent heavyweights in American history. George Shultz, a revered former U.S. Secretary of State, was a key board member. Henry Kissinger, another legendary former Secretary of State, also joined the illustrious group. James Mattis, who later became the U.S. Secretary of Defense, was a critical addition. Betsy DeVos, whose powerful family invested heavily, was present. Rupert Murdoch, the influential global media mogul, invested more than $100 million of his own money. David Boies, a famous and highly respected lawyer, was also involved. The sheer caliber of these names lent enormous credibility to Theranos. This immense credibility attracted even more substantial investments, and it unfortunately silenced many early scientific doubters. People felt pressured to believe the hype. The company was headquartered in Palo Alto, California, a vibrant hub of innovation. It operated in an intensely secretive and opaque manner. Employees were compelled to sign extremely strict non-disclosure agreements. They worked within a pervasive culture of fear and silence. Any questioning was met with severe consequences for their jobs. But the actual technology behind the much-hyped Edison machine was a complete and utter fraud. The device never truly worked as advertised in any meaningful or reliable way. It consistently failed rigorous quality control tests. It produced highly inaccurate and incredibly unreliable results for patients. This was an absolutely critical issue directly impacting patient health and safety. This put many lives at risk. The company secretly used commercial laboratory machines from other manufacturers. These machines were purchased from companies like Siemens and modified. They heavily modified these third-party machines for use in their own labs. The extravagant claims of performing 250 different tests from just a few drops of blood were completely false. Most tests still required traditional venipuncture. This meant larger blood samples drawn by needles from veins. And these larger samples were then processed on conventional laboratory equipment. This profound deception continued for several years. Patients were receiving critical health information from Theranos, but this information was alarmingly often wrong. Walgreens, a major national pharmacy chain, partnered enthusiastically with Theranos. This partnership officially began in 2013. They plan to open numerous Theranos wellness centers within Walgreens stores across the country. People could supposedly walk in and get quick, convenient blood tests right away. This was widely advertised as a quick, revolutionary, and incredibly easy service. A lucrative deal with Safeway, a prominent grocery giant, was also made. It was reportedly worth $350 million over several years, but this substantial deal largely fell apart before full implementation could happen. Walgreens initially opened dozens of Theranos centers. These were primarily located in Arizona and California. But serious problems arose very quickly after opening. Lab results were consistently questionable. Doctors began complaining vociferously about the inaccuracies of the tests. Walgreens eventually ended its entire partnership with Theranos. This termination happened in 2016. They closed all operating Theranos centers immediately. Whistleblowers started courageously coming forward despite immense personal pressure. Richard Fuis, a physician and inventor, had long harbored suspicions of fraud. He raised his grave concerns to various regulators and media outlets. Tyler Schultz, an employee and the grandson of board member George Schultz, courageously spoke up. He noticed serious scientific problems and ethical breaches within the Theranos lab operations. Erica Cheng, another dedicated employee, meticulously detailed numerous lab failures and dangerous inconsistencies. They both ultimately went to John Carreyrou. He was a determined investigative reporter for the Wall Street Journal. He spent many arduous months investigating the company's claims and secret operations. His initial groundbreaking expose was finally published in October 2015. It sent shockwaves through the financial world. It also profoundly shocked the medical and scientific communities instantly. The Wall Street Journal article explicitly revealed that Theranos was not genuinely using its own vaunted proprietary technology at all. It was instead secretly relying on third-party machines for most tests. It meticulously detailed widespread accuracy issues across various critical tests. Regulators swiftly took decisive action. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, known as CMS, conducted comprehensive inspections. They discovered severe deficiencies at the Theranos laboratory facility in Newark, California. This critical finding occurred in 2016. They gravely threatened to revoke the company's crucial lab license permanently. They imposed significant sanctions on the company. They also directly banned Elizabeth Holmes from owning or operating a clinical laboratory for 2 years. This marked the absolute beginning of the rapid end for Theranos. The company eventually ceased all operations by 2018. The Securities and Exchange Commission, known as the SEC, charged Elizabeth Holmes in March 2018. They formally alleged massive and elaborate fraud. They claimed she had deliberately defrauded investors of more than $700 million. She settled these serious civil charges. She agreed to pay a $500,000 financial penalty. She was permanently barred from serving as a director or officer of any public company for 10 long years. She also had to return 18.9 million shares of Theranos stock to the company. But this settlement was not the final word on her legal troubles. A federal grand jury indicted her and Sunny Balwani. He was her former boyfriend and the Theranos chief operating officer. This devastating indictment was issued in June 2018. They faced 11 separate counts of wire fraud. They were specifically accused of conspiring to defraud both investors and patients with their lies. The federal trial for Elizabeth Holmes finally began in August 2021. It was an incredibly long and complex legal proceeding. It lasted for many challenging months and weeks. The prosecution presented overwhelming and damning evidence against her. They called 29 separate witnesses to testify in court. Whistleblowers like Tyler Schultz and Erica Chung courageously shared their experiences. Former Theranos lab directors graphically described the failed technology. Patients spoke emotionally of receiving inaccurate results. They shared their personal stories of fear, confusion, and potential harm. The defense argued she genuinely believed in her revolutionary vision for the future. They claimed Sunny Balwani was controlling and abusive. They attempted to present her as a victim of abuse during the trial, but the jury ultimately saw through this elaborate defense strategy. She was convicted on 4 counts of wire fraud. This pivotal conviction happened in January 2022. She was found guilty of defrauding investors. She was acquitted on 4 other counts, specifically of defrauding patients. 3 remaining counts resulted in a hung jury unable to reach a verdict. Her sentencing came in November 2022. The presiding judge sentenced her to 11 years and 3 months in federal prison. She also received 3 years of supervised release after her prison term. She was formally ordered to pay $452 million in restitution. This massive sum was designated for the victims of her extensive fraud. Sunny Balwani was also convicted on 12 counts of fraud. He received a significantly longer sentence. 12 years and 11 months in prison, he too was ordered to pay substantial restitution to victims for his role. Before she ultimately went to prison, she had two young children. Her first child, a son, was born in July 2021. Her second child, a daughter, was born in February 2023. She made repeated attempts to delay her prison sentence, but these appeals were consistently denied by the courts. She eventually reported to the federal prison camp in Bryan, Texas. This critical event occurred in May 2023. The facility is a minimum security prison exclusively for women. She started serving her long sentence there. The entire story of Theranos is a stark and chilling warning for all. It clearly shows the profound dangers of unchecked hype and deliberate deception. It dramatically illustrates how far some individuals will go for power and immense money. And it powerfully highlights the absolute importance of critical oversight in new and emerging technologies. The dream of a revolutionary blood test crashed down in spectacular and devastating fashion for all involved. His private jets are an integral part of his strategy for global innovation. They enable him to connect the dots across his vast enterprises. And to maintain a relentless pace of development, they represent his commitment to efficiency and are a cornerstone of his ability to lead and inspire. The three jets are truly an extension of his will, allowing him to project his influence across the world. They are a vital instrument in his mission to reshape the future. With fresh air continuously supplied and an extremely low noise level, his expansive global footprint demands such sophisticated tools, allowing him to effectively oversee projects located on multiple continents. From cutting-edge space exploration initiatives to large-scale electric vehicle manufacturing operations, the sheer magnitude of his entrepreneurial ventures necessitates this kind of unparalleled travel flexibility. It is primarily a tool of unmatched efficiency in a rapidly moving world where speed is absolutely everything. For a visionary entrepreneur like him, the environmental impact is fully acknowledged, but often viewed as an unavoidable trade-off for accelerating global sustainable energy solutions. He firmly argues that his life's work will ultimately lead to a dramatic reduction in humanity's overall carbon footprint. Many observers may hold differing opinions, but his demanding travel patterns are a direct and unavoidable consequence of his incredibly demanding roles. As the chief executive officer of multiple groundbreaking and world-changing companies, the Gulfstream G650ER is not merely an airplane. It is an intrinsic extension of his intensely driven work life, a highly sophisticated mobile office that seamlessly connects his geographically scattered empire and ceaselessly enables his relentless pursuit of progress. Well, the financial system had built a house of cards. Many knew the foundation was weak. Lenders had cast aside traditional underwriting standards. Mortgage brokers chased commissions. They pushed loans onto borrowers with shaky credit. These were subprime mortgages, loans given to individuals with low credit scores. Their ability to repay was questionable. The volume of these risky loans exploded by 2006. 1 in every 5 mortgages originated was subprime. That is a staggering 20%. Before 2003, this figure hovered around 10%. This massive increase was a ticking time bomb. Lenders offered adjustable rate mortgages. ARMs had low introductory teaser rates. These rates lasted for 2 or 3 years. After this period, the interest rate would reset. It would jump significantly, often by several percentage points. This meant monthly payments soared. Predatory lending became common. Mortgage brokers found desperate borrowers. They offered terms designed to fail. Some were no-doc loans, loans with no documentation of income. Some were stated income loans. Borrowers simply stated their income. No verification was required. These were often called liar's loans. Lenders did not care if borrowers could repay. They simply wanted to originate the loan. They wanted to sell it quickly. The risk was passed on. Fees and commissions were the priority. This practice was widespread. Millions of homeowners took on these loans. They often did not fully grasp the risk. Many bought homes they could not truly afford. They qualified only because of those initial low rates. The hope was home prices would keep rising. Borrowers could refinance, they could sell their homes for a profit, but this was a dangerous assumption, a massive gamble. Housing was viewed as an ATM, always going up. These individual risky loans were not kept by the original lenders. Oh no. They were packaged together, thousands of mortgages bundled into complex financial products. These were called mortgage-backed securities, MBS were then sliced and diced further. They became collateralized debt obligations. CDOs were even more opaque. Investors bought these products. They believed them to be safe. Credit rating agencies played a critical role. They stamped high ratings on these complex instruments. Ratings like AAA. This implied the investments were virtually risk-free. Yet inside these packages lurked thousands of subprime mortgages from borrowers who might default. The agencies failed to properly assess the risk, or perhaps they were incentivized not to. Their revenue came from the very firms creating these securities. A clear conflict of interest. Trillions of dollars of these securities were issued. Global investors bought them all. Pension funds, insurance companies, investment banks, everyone wanted a piece. The perceived safety was an illusion, a house built on sand. The problem was global. Regulatory oversight was virtually non-existent for these complex new products. No one truly understood the scope of the danger. By 2007, the housing market began to falter. Interest rates started to climb. The Federal Reserve had raised the federal funds rate 17 times. From 1% in 2004 to 5.25% by mid-2006, this pushed up mortgage rates. Especially for those adjustable rate mortgages, millions of ARMs were scheduled to reset. Approximately 2 million ARMs were set to reset in 2007, another 2 million in 2008.